This is the show dedicated to raising up the next generation of men of faith and character. My name is Mark Stanifer. Welcome to The Next Man Up.
Part of the NRT Podcast Network.
Well, hey guys, welcome in once again to the Next Man Up podcast. So good to have you along with us once again and to have you part of the community that's raising up the next generation of healthy and godly men. My name is Mark, and I'm honored to be your host for another episode today. Before going any further, let me wish you a happy Thanksgiving to you and to yours. I truly hope that you are celebrating with family and friends and loved ones in a meaningful way this weekend, and that you can celebrate together. Well, today, as you might imagine, we are going to explore this topic of gratefulness. And for obvious reasons, this is the season, this is the holiday where we celebrate gratefulness. But as I record this earlier in the month of November, there's some additional things that I think could help with the context for what I'm about ready to say. You wouldn't know this about me, but I have been in a season of waiting for a significant amount of time. Now, I'm not necessarily going to go into that because it would be a deviation from the topic of the show. But what you need to know is that I have been waiting for a long period of time, or at least what feels to me like a long period of time, for some things to happen, for some things to develop, particularly in the professional space, for some doors to open, for some opportunities to arise. And yet, even as I record this, I still am in this season of waiting. The other thing that I'd like you to know is this. Earlier today, for the coaching side of the work that I do, I was writing on vulnerability. In fact, I was really writing on faux vulnerability, as in fake vulnerability, as in the type of vulnerability that I have demonstrated in the past. And I was writing about some insights that I had gained in a conversation not too long ago, and the inspiration to refer to this fake vulnerability as faux vulnerability. And anticipating this conversation on gratefulness today, I want to be as vulnerable as possible with you. And part of that is letting you know that this is a practice of mine that I am growing in. I'm also in, like I said, a season of waiting, and I'm a fellow journeyman. I'm a traveler on this path, as are you, because I certainly don't have it all figured out. So with that as context for topic and how I'm approaching this topic today, let's go a little bit deeper into what gratefulness really means. If you were to look it up in the dictionary, you're going to find a definition, a wording that's something like this: feeling an appreciation of kindness, being thankful, showing appreciation for something that has been done to you. This is, as you understand, as you know, the definition or a definition of gratefulness. And as I was thinking about this, as I often do, the question came to mind, why? Why does it matter? Why would I suggest that being grateful is important? And so I thought, well, what have others said about this? Instead of just Mark's words or Mark's perspective or just one perspective, what have others said on this broad topic of gratefulness? Now, I could record quote after quote after quote for hours. In fact, we could go and go and go for a long time on what others have said. But let me give you just a sample of some notable thought leaders and speakers and authors and what they've had to say about this idea of being grateful. Zig Ziglar says it this way: "It makes no difference where you go. there you are. And it makes no difference what you have. There's always more to want. Until you are happy with who you are, you will never be happy because of what you have. Or Tony Robbins says it this way: when you are grateful, fear disappears and abundance appears. Epicurus wrote this: do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Here are the words from Maya Angelou. Let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer. How about Thomas Merton? He said it this way: to be grateful is to recognize the love of God in everything He has given us. And He has given us everything. Every breath we draw is a gift of His love. Every moment of existence is a grace, for it brings with it immense grace from Him. Gratitude, therefore, takes nothing for granted, is never unresponsive, is constantly awaking to new wonder and to praise of the goodness of God. For the grateful person knows that God is good, not by hearsay, but by experience. And that is what makes all the difference. These words were from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. In normal life, we hardly realize how much more we receive than we give, and life cannot be rich without such gratitude. It is so easy to overestimate the importance of our own achievements compared with what we owe to the help of others. And then just one more. This one's from N.T. Wright. When we learn to read the story of Jesus and see it as the story of the love of God, doing for us what we could not do for ourselves, that insight produces again and again a sense of astonished gratitude, which is very near the heart of authentic Christian experience. So not just my words. And what you hear in those words over and over is a sense of peace and contentment and joy and happiness, regardless of circumstances, regardless of things. In fact, you also hear that this is an expression of worship of our Creator and an example of what it really means to know and follow our Creator. So as I think about gratefulness and think about it in the context of who I want to be and how I want to live, there are few things that come to mind as to why it matters. First of all, I think choosing gratefulness helps us to have perspective. It keeps our focus away from getting or from using or from consuming, etc., and helps our focus to be on simply being grateful, being appreciative, serving and giving. In other words, to state it simply, it helps us to maintain a healthy perspective of who we are and what we have. I think it also helps me to practice contentment. What you heard in some of those statements, some of those quotes that I read, whether you realize this or not, is that you are more than your circumstances. You are more than the events that happen to you. You are more than the things that you have, the things that you've accomplished. When it comes to understanding God's blessing, it is not measured by what you have or by what you don't have in terms of material things. When I practice gratitude and gratefulness, it helps me to be content, like the Apostle Paul said, in all situations, in plenty and in want. It helps me to be content. A third thing is it gives me a bigger vision. It helps me to see things, as I said, from a different perspective, but also to see things from a bigger picture. You know this, God's kingdom seems upside down. When I see things only from my lens, from my small vision of my understanding of my world and how I think the world should be, then I miss the bigger vision of what God is trying to do, how he's trying to develop us into his children and how he wants us to interact with each other. Being grateful for me allows me to be reminded of that bigger vision. And then I think I would be remiss if I didn't add this last piece, and that's modeling. Showing your son how to do this, showing your family how to do this, showing them what it means to be grateful. You know that you are a significant influence on the people in your home, particularly your kids. And so when you practice being grateful, it allows you to demonstrate and model, to lead by example to those that are closely watching you and following you. Well, as I said at the top of the show, I am a fellow traveler. I am certainly not an expert. I don't have it all figured out. This is not vulnerability. This is me just calling it like it is and letting you know where I am. But here are a couple of ideas for you that is wondering, how do I do this? How do I put some of this into practice? What can I do to be more grateful, to be more intentional about practicing gratefulness? Well, here are a couple of ideas. First of all, how about a mantra? What can you say to yourself on a regular basis that will remind you that you want to be grateful, that you want to practice this discipline of being grateful? What phrase, what song, what word, what mantra can you have in place that you repeat regularly to yourself as a reminder? How about journaling? This is something that I've experimented with this year, really for the first time, intentionally journaling, including gratitude as part of that journaling process. And I got to admit, at times it's been mechanical, it's been robotic, it's been just checking the boxes. But I'm still experimenting, and I'm trying to find the right ingredients, the right process for me. But journaling is an option to just capture your thoughts on a regular basis as a reminder of things that you have to be grateful for. Here's another one. This is much more intentional, maybe more of an advanced practice, if you will, and that's choose to be present wherever you are and to notice. To not be in the past thinking about what did happen, not be in the future thinking about what may or may not happen, but to be present and to notice the things, the people, the experiences around you, and let that build in you an experience of gratitude and gratefulness for what's happening in the present. Here's another one. Grow your awareness to how most of the world lives. It's easy for us to compare to those that we look up to, whether that's financially or in terms of success or performance. But what if you compare yourself and how you live to how most of the world lives? Whether that's through reading about other countries and cultures, maybe watching documentaries, maybe choosing to give into a place that has desperate need, or maybe it's travel. I know in this environment, travel is kind of difficult, but maybe there's opportunity for you to travel to a place that looks nothing like where you live, and to gain perspective and to remind yourself of what you really do have relative to most of the rest of the world. And then just one other thought here. What about acts, intentional, purposeful acts of kindness or gratefulness? How about giving kindness and gratitude to others intentionally as a way to develop this discipline and practice in your own life? Just a few ideas from a fellow traveler who is wanting to be more present, more content, and more disciplined with the practice of being grateful. So guys, how are you doing? As you think about gratitude, gratefulness, how are you doing with this in your own life? And more importantly, what can you do to increase your discipline, your practice of being grateful? It may seem a little counterintuitive. It may require some unlearning and some relearning. But like I said before, it's not just me. There are tremendous thought leaders, speakers, authors, philosophers, on and on and on, who emphasize the importance of gratitude and gratefulness. So what can you do to move further down this path? Well, as I said at the top, I'll say it once again. I wish you and yours a fantastic Thanksgiving season this year. All the best to you. And may you grow in your discipline and practice of being grateful. All right, guys. Well, I will be back, same bat time, same bat channel next month, i.e. next week. Until then, adios. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.